Our second presenter is Enda Grimes from John Paul Construction. Enda is also a student on a master's programme in construction informatics, and he's going to give us an overview of his, I suppose, real-world experiences of using collaboration with John Paul and probably using some of the tools that he's gained exposure to on his course. Thanks, Enda.
This presentation.
You pull right to the bottom there. You can see the P or the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
On the right.
Over again.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Enda Grimes, and I'm the Senior Construction Planner with John Paul Construction here in Dublin. I suppose the title of my presentation this morning is Keeping It Safely Online from a main contractor's perspective. And basically, I'm just going to give you some of my experiences dealing with collaboration in the workplace. Just to run down through what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give a brief introduction into John Paul Construction and what we do as a company, our experiences of collaboration and information sharing, and how we deal with subcontractors and suppliers from this point of view. And I'm just going to touch on the future of collaboration and how I see, where I see projects and the running of projects are going. Just to give you a brief introduction to myself, I've been working as a construction planner for the last 7 years. The last 2.5 years have been with John Paul's here in Dublin, and previous to that I worked in the Middle East and also with a main contractor here in Ireland as a planner. My background is in civil engineering, completed master's and bachelor's degree in engineering in UCD, and like Damien said, I'm currently completing the MSc in Construction Informatics here, which was a course jointly developed by CITA and accredited by DIT. And I suppose the reason I chose to do this course, I see CIT as where construction is going, and it's becoming the two are becoming more and more intertwined. And also I have a big interest in the area of BIM, building information modelling and 4 and 5D modelling. Just the slide here just gives a brief overview of some of the modules we cover. I'm a year into a 2-year course, and some of the modules I've already covered include building collaborative technologies, advanced knowledge management, and mobile computing. So it's all very relevant to what we do. For those of you who aren't familiar with John Paul Construction, we're one of the top 5 main contractors here in Ireland. A long-established company, privately owned since 1949. As you can see, our turnover is on average around 179 million pounds sterling. We've converted to sterling now because this is where our markets are going towards. We've completed over 12,000 projects, and like many companies in the last few years, we've had to turn our attention further afield away from Ireland, and we now have offices in Scotland, Dublin, Dubai and London. I suppose that we generally cover all construction sectors. I suppose our specialist area in the last number of years has been in healthcare projects, where we also do commercial, residential, civils and fit-outs. Just brings us on to the need. Why do we need to collaborate, or what is collaboration? I suppose it's to work jointly together in an intellectual endeavour. And what does this mean? It really means that we need to share information with each other. And why do we need to share information? As projects become more and more complex, I suppose every company does not have every skill necessary to complete these projects on our own. Also, I suppose globally the world is becoming a smaller place, and it has been for the last number of years. We're now engaging with suppliers and specialists from all over the world. We need to be able to communicate with these people across different time zones. Just for instance, as I've mentioned, we've got offices in Dubai, London, and we've got projects in Scotland and in other parts of the UK. Particularly in the Dubai office, there's a time difference of 4 hours, and our staff over there need to be able to access information from our Dublin office in real time without the necessity for our people being present in the Dublin office. How do we do this within John Paul's? we use a company intranet system called Union Workspace. As you can see, the slide here just gives you a front page cover of different areas that are covered on it. We have an area for contacts, tenders, different organisations and our contracts. And basically it also serves for dealing with purchase orders, RFIs, emails. So basically it's a it acts as an archive for old projects that are completed, for current projects and for all tenders. All our files within the company are uploaded to Workspace. Each individual project is given a unique ID or folder structure. We operate a check-in, check-out system. So basically this, for version control, basically this means that, say if you're working on a Word file, once you check that out, no one else can work on the file simultaneously. So it cuts out the need for duplication and there's no confusion as to which file we're actually working on. There's a built-in search function on it which allows us, we would store all our construction drawings for each project on this system. So obviously for the larger the projects, the more drawings we have, and we need to be able to retrieve information expediently. Another advantage of Workspace, or how we use it, is at tender stage, when we're sending out packages to subcontractors, we operate a link system similar to how Bob explained through Wubius. So we send a subcontractor a link which allows them to enter into our system to view the drawings relevant to them for pricing information. Basically the advantages of this, it cuts down on paper and the cost of printing and postage, and also it allows us track to see our subcontractors actually looking at the information to see are they pricing it, so we know when we're engaging with them who is doing what. It doesn't allow subcontractors get onto our system and upload information and download and alter information. So for this reason, it's not suitable for 2D or 3D collaboration, I suppose, for quality control issues. So moving on, we need to address some ways on the larger projects of dealing with this system to allow us to collaborate with many different parties. And I suppose the term here is SaaS, which means software as a service. And basically this means that it frees users from buying a software license to run their hardware, and all the information is basically available from online providers, for example, Wubius. We're all familiar with the term cloud computing, and basically this means that the information is stored in the internet cloud, and like the image portrays here, it doesn't mean that your information is up in the clouds and lost forever. It's just really refers to the fact that it's available in a secure location off-site provided by the software provider. Like we have many different solutions available, such Bob has already touched on them, such as the ones we are familiar with in John Paul's include BIW and 4 projects. I suppose, why do we need, what are the advantages of these software solutions over our own internal systems? They provide a much larger storage capability. They allow us to interact, I suppose they act as a central hub so that people from the design team, the client, subcontractors and the main contractor himself can access a central database. I suppose some key points to point out is that the system needs to be offer fast search engines for finding information. Indexing, version control is vital, and again Bob has touched on all these auditability and traceability points. As well, I suppose it needs to be able to offer hierarchical control. Not every element of the team needs access to all the information. For example, a former subcontractor only needs access to the rebar drawings, and so you can set up these systems to, once you have an administrator in place, to work to your needs. Just to give you an example of some of the projects we've used on, recently completed St. Vincent's Private Hospital, which is a €145 million project, a major project, and we use BIW on this. We've just handed over this month, and this is the Science Centre South. Again, we use a different version of project or collaboration tool in this 4 project. We're currently completing ward block at St Vincent's Hospital using BIW. While these services act as a central hub for storing data, because we've expanded internationally, we need to find a system that allows us to communicate with our different partners or within our different offices. I suppose a buzzword today in IT is unified communications. What this means is that we need to have a one-fit or one-stop shop that serves, I suppose, telephony, instant messaging, presence, video and conferencing, all under one umbrella. And we found that the most important thing now when setting up a remote office or site location is the actual internet connection. Because without it hampers what you can do. After doing some research, the system that we operate is called Microsoft Office Communication Server, which acts as all of the above: the phone, the video conferencing and web conferencing system. It also gives you presence, instant messaging. What it does is it can integrate our Cisco Call Manager, our VoIP system, with OCS, which means that it uses the data networks to allow our phone systems connect together. So it gives us free internal extension dialing even when the phones are set up abroad. It also gives you cheaper call rates than using the standard phone line or PBI or PRX line. I suppose the cost is small because it's run off our existing servers that are already there. So we found that like our main hardware outlay has just been our telephone handsets and our web cameras for allowing us use web conferencing and whatever. And as I said, the system is expandable. There's no limit on the number of sites as long as you have a good internet connection. I suppose just to get away from the main contractors, and from our experience of the Masters in Construction Informatics and what we have learned, there are many different systems readily available to SMEs that are economically viable, I suppose. We've touched on Wobius. Another one is Skype, which offers video conferencing and instant messaging. And there's also Skype are expanding further with a Skype or a SIP solution are similar to Microsoft Office Communications, where you can get the same calls by linking your computer to your telephone. You can get the same business calls at a similar rate to how you would normally get using Skype personally. Dropbox is another tool that's readily available for uploading images, documents, and sharing them from remote PCs or smartphones. We use this extensively in the Masters for, I suppose, uploading our presentations and submissions, and also for accessing our lecture notes. Just for example, there's three different levels of Dropbox available for storage. There's the free version, which allows up to 2 gigabytes of storage. There's the Pro 50 version, which allows 50 gigabytes of storage at a cost of just €70 per year. And there's the Pro 100 version, which obviously allows 100 gigabytes of storage at a cost of €140 per year. So it's all viable as a startup pack for companies. Another thing that we've introduced in John Paul's and that we're getting to terms with is the iPhone, and it's been rolled out, I suppose, among senior staff. The iPhone is commonplace. I think everyone is aware of what it can do, and along with that, the Android phone as well is catching up. And there's thousands of business apps out there to suit small to medium enterprises. I've given just a brief view of some of these that are available. You have your Scan 2 PDF, which uses the phone uses the camera on your phone and allows you to scan information and email it there and then on site. This is very useful, possibly for creating RFIs remotely on site when you're walking around. It saves you going back to your office and creating emails. It speeds up the whole process. Reader is another one which allows you to view most common file types on your iPhone or iPad without actually having the software downloaded. Or AirSharing HD, I suppose this one is very useful. It acts kind of like a wireless hard disk that gives you remote access to your laptop at home or your desktop on your iPhone, which is very useful. So you can access files that you've saved on your desktop at home remotely. And Documents to Go is another one which allows you to edit Word, Excel and PowerPoint files saved on your PC. I suppose that brings me on to the future of where I would like to think construction is going here in Ireland, and it certainly is in America, and who are the market leader in this field, and in the UK, and that is BIM. I suppose you can all see the definition of BIM as put out by the Royal Institute of Architects in the UK. There are many different definitions available, but what I would like, I suppose, to pick out from this is BIM really is a centralised model for a project that starts from pre-construction stage, follows through construction, into post-construction, into facilities management, and basically it's a central hub where all information relevant to the project is stored, and it involves interaction from all parties. I suppose, just to give you a brief overview of how it works, you have your initial concept that comes from your architect or design team. You have the individual models that can be developed from your MEP end, from your structural engineer, from your architect, and these are combined to produce your building model. Further then, interaction with your subcontractors, your specialists, your main contractor allows you to further develop the model, and from the model you can get your typical 2D drawings, you can look at reports, design studies and visualization, and basically it serves the whole project from conception right back around to maybe demolition in 50 years down the line when you're revamping. Just this slide just gives an overview of the traditional project information exchange versus integrated project delivery. As we can see from the first slide, traditionally information has been passed around between parties back and forth. The architect might be talking to the joinery specialist, but there's no interaction between the rest of the parties, or the rest of the parties don't necessarily see this information. Now, they don't always need to see it, but I suppose with integrated project delivery, you have your centralized BIM model, and everyone inputs and outputs from this model. I suppose the advantages of this is it enables concurrent work. You have a reference model there that enables clear tracking of changes. The beauty of 3D, I suppose, is before you start working on site, you have design visualization of how your project will end up or how it will look. You also have design validation, which basically allows you to iron out problems or issues that traditionally you may solve on site, such as clash detection between ductwork, the RC frame, etc. I suppose while BIM is in an early stage, particularly here in Ireland, estimating is another area that we can see this area changing, where quantity takeoffs and all your data and estimating come directly from the BIM model. I suppose why do we use it? It reduces time, it's more efficient, it allows more pre-construction and prefabrication of materials off-site, because we have the finished product there in 3D, and it's accurate. It allows us to use accurate measurements. Also, it cuts down, because I suppose in an environment where we use collaboration, and Bob has touched on it again, we can work from the comfort of our own desks and at the same time communicate with people, and they can see us, and I suppose it cuts down travel time and the need for meetings, and I suppose in everyone's busy lifestyles, one positive that might come out of it is the amount of time wasted going and coming for meetings where you might be only needed there for 10-15 minutes. And another area where I can see this developing is with the advent of the tablet PC. that construction managers in the future will be able to view information on the building model as they're walking around the site. I know this might be a long way off, but it's certainly being used in the UK by some of the leading contractors such as Lang O'Rourke and Skanska. The experts say by the end of 2011, just a footnote here, that there will be 50 million iPads globally. And how long will it be before we're sitting in a meeting and all our minutes and documents are being read off the iPad instead of paper? I suppose John Paul's are currently looking into the area of BIM and how it'll work. We're just doing our own research, but an area that we are getting into is the integration of a 3D model with construction schedule using a software tool called Synchro. And what we use this for is we use it to track and visualize progress in site, to present it to the client, to the design team, to subcontractors, and most importantly to our own site managers, our site staff, to allow them visualize where the program or the construction schedule is going. From my own experience, I suppose when you open out a Gantt chart for a project, there could be a couple of hundred activities on it, and it's clustered, and people get frustrated looking at it and trying to figure out where the project is going. How we develop this, we have a 3D building model developed in Revit or whatever the software tool might be by an external party, with input from the design team with their drawings, their standards. We engage with our subcontractors just to ensure that they can meet our demands. And constructability is the main thing, that the actual model is constructed in the way we see the project being constructed on site and in relation to the Gantt chart. Then we combine the two, we import the 3D model into Synchro, and also the Gantt chart or the schedule, whether it be in Asta or Primavera, and combine the two, and we publish the 4D model back out to, as I've mentioned, the site management team, the design team. This is just, I suppose, an example on a new war block of how we might demonstrate in 3D to subcontractors. In this case, it's a precast frame of when we need, of the sequence we're going to work in on site. From here we can see on this element of the work we're erecting our precast columns and walls from first to second floor, and we have our precast slabs coming here for 16th of May, and straight on from this we're erecting our walls, and so on and so forth as we go through the building. This gives you an overview, just to give you in real time. There's the completed model for St. Vincent's, and just a few pictures of where we actually are on site. So you see our basement to the left and our ground bearing structure to the right. Also, we just have a snapshot there of the Gantt chart. Basically, that's where our experience of collaboration and where we're at and where I can see it going. I suppose just from my own experience, like, there's hundreds of different software solutions out there, and the most important thing I think is to carry out your research for any company, not to rush into which solution to choose, because if you don't, you could end up like this guy below. So, have you any questions?
Sorry, just a quick one. On Vincent's project and Vincent's work block, you used BIW, and was it UCD you used, was it Foresight?
4 projects.
4 projects. Who mandated the different systems being used? Was it the client or the design team, or did you guys say, well, we'll use BIW here on these two? Was it your decision, or was it the mandate? It was
a mixture of both, I suppose. On Vincent's project, on the 2 Vincent's projects, the architect would have had experience with BIW, and that was one of the reasons they were familiar with it. And I suppose in conjunction we had experience with both of them, so that was, I suppose, a deciding factor in that. In UCD Science South, purely down to a cost issue.
Okay. Just in terms of the recent war block you were using 4D then, were you sharing that with BIW?
No, it's just at the moment it's just on our own company system. We have it up on Workspace and we track it that way.
And just the last thing, Are you guys sweating your investment in DAW or 4 projects for a knowledge management point of view? Like once the project finishes, are you using systems to generate your O&M stuff or your as-builts, or are you using it after the fact to go back and do lessons learned or do stuff like that? Or once the project finishes, is that it? It's just parked to one side?
Yeah, well, I suppose for a certain period after construction, you will still have it there to store the information or to archive it. But yeah, it's really on a project by project basis. All our OI manuals, as I've mentioned, I suppose the majority of our information is then archived back to our own intranet system. So we have a folder structure for, say, St. Vincent's Private Hospital, and it's there infinitely in our own system. Yeah.